Dr. Maya Rodriguez never expected to make first contact while elbow-deep in alien bacteria samples. The proximity alert on her isolated research station had been malfunctioning for weeks, so when it blared to life, she dismissed it as another glitch. That mistake would change her life forever. The wall of her laboratory dissolved in a flash of purple light. Maya stumbled backward, knocking over a tray of petri dishes as a towering figure stepped through the smoldering opening. Silver scales rippled across midnight blue skin, and eyes like molten gold fixed upon her with predatory focus. Maya knew instantly who, or rather what, stood before her. Thyra. The name that made hardened military commanders tremble. The alien warlord who had brought 3 galactic sectors to their knees in less than a standard year. And now, for some unfathomable reason, this legendary creature stood in Maya's modest research station on the edge of inhabited space. Dar. Maya Rodriguez, Thyra's voice resonated with harmonic undertones that made Maya's bones vibrate. You will come with me. Maya's scientific mind kicked into overdrive, analyzing even as her heart raced. Thyra's species was unknown, their technology centuries beyond human understanding. This was her field of study, xenobiology, but no one had ever gotten close enough to a living specimen to study them. Most who encountered Thyra's kind didn't survive to report their findings. Why me? Maya managed to ask, proud that her voice barely trembled. I'm just a researcher. Thyra's head tilted, the movement unnaturally smooth. You are the one who survived the Nexus plague. The only human who adapted to the virus instead of succumbing to it. Maya's hand unconsciously touched the scars on her neck, permanent reminders of her brush with death 2 years ago. She had been the sole survivor when the plague swept through the Nexus colony. Her immune system had done something unprecedented. It hadn't just fought off the virus, it had integrated it, leading to enhanced cellular regeneration. That was luck, Maya said, though she knew it wasn't true. She'd spent the last 2 years studying her own altered biology, trying to understand why she survived when others didn't. Luck. Thyra's scales shifted, creating patterns that seemed to dance in the laboratory's harsh lighting. Your species calls it luck when you achieve the impossible. We call it potential. Before Maya could respond, more figures emerged from the hole in her wall. They moved with liquid grace, their armor seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. Maya found herself surrounded by Thyra's elite guard, their weapons held ready but not aimed directly at her. You have a choice, Dr. Rodriguez, Thyra said, moving closer. You can come willingly and help us understand human adaptability, or, the alien paused, those golden eyes narrowing slightly. Actually, there is no other choice. Maya felt a hysterical laugh bubble up in her throat. That's not really a choice then, is it? To her surprise, Thyra's scales shifted in what might have been amusement. You humor me, even now. This is why your species fascinates us. You find strength in the strangest places. Maya glanced at her research terminal, still displaying the results of her latest experiments. 2 years of work, all aimed at understanding human adaptation and evolution. Was this why Thyra had come? Had her research somehow attracted the attention of this advanced species? If I go with you, Maya said carefully, what exactly do you want me to do? Thyra moved with that unsettling fluidity, circling Maya like a predator. But there was something else in those alien movements, a hesitation, perhaps. You will help us understand how humans adapt. How you evolve so quickly, how you survive conditions that should destroy you. And perhaps. Thyra paused, and Maya swore she heard uncertainty in that harmonic voice. Perhaps you will help us understand why we cannot. The implications hit Maya like a physical blow. The most powerful species in known space, seeking help from humans. There had to be more to this story. But as Thyra's guards moved to escort her from the laboratory, Maya realized she would have plenty of time to uncover the truth. She took one last look at her ruined lab, at the years of research scattered across the floor. I'll need my data, she said, surprising herself with her own boldness. Thyra made a sound that might have been laughter. Of course you will, Dr. Rodriguez. We counted on your curiosity. It is, after all, another of those strange human strengths we wish to understand. As Maya was led through the shimmering portal to Thyra's ship, she couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't just being kidnapped, she was being recruited for something far more important than she could imagine. And somewhere beneath her fear, a spark of scientific excitement ignited. She was about to get a closer look at the galaxy's most mysterious species than any human ever had. She just hoped she would live long enough to document her findings. The interior of Thyra's ship defied everything Maya thought she knew about alien architecture. Instead of the cold, metallic surfaces she expected, the walls seemed alive, shifting with patterns of bioluminescence that pulsed in harmony with some unseen rhythm. Her scientific mind raced to catalog every detail, even as she was led through corridors that seemed to rearrange themselves behind her. Your heart rate has increased, Thyra observed, walking beside her with that unnaturally fluid grace. Yet your cortisol levels suggest curiosity rather than fear. Maya shot a sideways glance at the alien warlord. You can sense my hormone levels. Among other things. Thyra's scales rippled in what Maya was beginning to recognize as amusement. Your species broadcasts your emotions like a solar flare. It makes you interesting. They entered a vast chamber that took Maya's breath away. The ceiling soared hundreds of meters overhead, and what appeared to be a living star system floated in the space above them. Planets, moons, and asteroids moved in complex patterns that seemed both chaotic and perfectly choreographed. Welcome to the Nexus Chamber, Thyra said, gesturing to a raised platform that materialized from the floor. This is where we study the threads that connect all living things. Maya stepped onto the platform, and holographic displays sprang to life around her. She recognized her own research data, but it was presented in ways she had never imagined possible. Complex molecular structures danced through the air, showing how her altered DNA had adapted to the Nexus plague. Your survival wasn't luck, Thyra said, moving to stand beside her. It was evolution in real time. Something our species lost long ago. Maya turned to face the alien warlord, finally beginning to understand. Your people can't adapt anymore, can they? That's why you're so interested in humans. Thyra's golden eyes dimmed slightly. We achieved biological perfection generations ago. Our technology allowed us to eliminate disease, extend our lives indefinitely, enhance our physical and mental capabilities beyond natural limits. The alien scales darkened. But perfection, we discovered, is a dead end. Because you can't evolve anymore, Maya whispered, the implications staggering. You're stuck. Trapped in amber, as your species might say. Thyra waved a hand, and the holographic displays shifted to show data Maya had never seen before. We have encountered countless species across the galaxy. Most we conquered easily. Some we studied. None showed the remarkable adaptability of humans. Maya watched as the displays showed human genetic sequences compared to various alien species. The human DNA was constantly shifting, mutating, adapting, while the others remained static. But why take me by force? Why not just ask for help? Thyra made a sound that might have been a laugh. Would your leaders have believed us? The mighty Thyra, coming to humans for help? No, they would have assumed it was a trick, a prelude to invasion. And perhaps they would have been right. What do you mean? Not all of my people agree with this approach, Thyra said, scales shifting in complex patterns. Many believe we should simply harvest what we need from your species. Take your genetic material by force and find our own solution. A chill ran down Maya's spine. And what do you believe? I believe that understanding is the key to evolution. Thyra turned those golden eyes on her. Which is why I need your help, Dr. Rodriguez. Not just your genetics, but your mind. Your human perspective. The holographic displays changed again, showing what appeared to be medical data, but on a scale Maya had never seen before. "These are my people," Thyra explained. "All of them. Our perfect, unchanging forms are beginning to break down. Without the ability to adapt, we cannot survive the natural evolution of the universe itself." Maya's scientific curiosity warred with her survival instinct. "And what happens if I refuse to help?" "Then the others of my kind will likely prevail," Thyra said simply. "And humanity will become nothing more than a genetic resource to be harvested." Maya stared at the dancing holographic displays, at the incredible complexity of Thyra's people and their desperate need to change. She thought of her own transformation, how the Nexus plague had nearly killed her but instead made her stronger. Sometimes evolution required dancing with death. "I'll help you," Maya said finally. "But I have conditions." Thyra's scales brightened with interest. "You are in no position to make demands, Dr. Rodriguez." "Maybe not," Maya agreed. "But you didn't bring me here just for my genetics. You want to understand how humans think, how we adapt. Well, this is how we do it: we negotiate, we collaborate, we find ways to work together even when it seems impossible." For a long moment, Thyra was silent. Then, to Maya's amazement, the alien warlord's scales shifted into a pattern she had never seen before, one that seemed to ripple with respect. "Name your conditions, Dr. Rodriguez. Show me how humans adapt to impossible situations." Maya took a deep breath, knowing her next words could either save or doom humanity. She just hoped she was reading the situation correctly. "First," she said, "you're going to tell me exactly what's killing your people. All of it, no more half-truths. Because if I'm going to help you evolve, I need to understand what we're really fighting against." Thyra's golden eyes flared brighter. "Perhaps," the alien said softly, "you are more dangerous than we realized." The truth, Maya discovered, was far worse than she had imagined. She stood in Thyra's private laboratory, surrounded by three-dimensional projections of genetic data that told a story of impending extinction. It had been 3 days since her capture, though time felt fluid aboard this living ship. "Your people aren't just stuck," Maya said, manipulating the holographic strands of alien DNA with practiced gestures. "You're degrading. Every generation is less stable than the last." Thyra moved beside her, those golden eyes fixed on the spiraling genetic sequences. "We thought we had achieved perfection. Instead, we wrote our own extinction into our code." The data showed it clearly: Thyra's species had engineered themselves into an evolutionary dead end. Their perfect bodies, their incredible technological achievements, their seeming immortality, it all came at a terrible cost. Each generation's DNA was less capable of natural repair and adaptation. They were like crystal statues, beautiful, perfect, and catastrophically fragile. But that's not the worst part, is it? Maya turned to face Thyra. "There's something else. Something you haven't told me." The alien warlord's scales shifted through patterns Maya was learning to read: uncertainty, fear, and something that might have been shame. "Show me what you have discovered, Dr. Rodriguez." Maya gestured at the displays, highlighting specific sequences. "These patterns here, they're not random degradation. This is targeted. Something is actively attacking your species' genetic structure." She paused, watching Thyra's reaction. "Something you created." The chamber's bioluminescence dimmed slightly, reflecting its occupant's mood. "We called it the Perfectionist Protocol," Thyra said finally. "A self-replicating genetic algorithm designed to eliminate imperfections in our code." "But it didn't stop," Maya whispered, horror dawning as she understood. "It's still running, isn't it? Still trying to perfect your species, even though there's nothing left to perfect. It's tearing you apart at the molecular level." Thyra moved to a wall, pressing a scaled hand against its living surface. A new chamber opened, revealing something that made Maya's breath catch. Suspended in a crystalline matrix was what appeared to be a child of Cthyra's species, but its form was wrong, its scales malformed and its limbs twisted. "This is what happens now when we try to reproduce naturally," Cthyra said softly. "The protocol attacks any variation from its ideal template. But that template is fundamentally flawed. We are dying, Dr. Rodriguez, not with a bang but with a whimper." Maya approached the stasis chamber, her scientist's mind already racing through possibilities. How long? 3 generations. Perhaps 4. Then there will be no more children. No more future. Unless you can adapt, Maya finished. Unless you can find a way to evolve past the protocol's constraints. She turned back to Cthyra. "That's why you're so interested in how I survived the Nexus plague. My DNA didn't just resist the virus, it incorporated it, used it to become something new." Cthyra's scales brightened slightly. "Yes. But there is more. Show me the data from your latest analysis." Maya returned to the holographic displays, pulling up her findings from the past 3 days of intensive research. "Your people's condition, it's remarkably similar to the Nexus plague. The same kind of molecular restructuring, the same pattern of..." She trailed off, a terrible suspicion forming. "You're beginning to understand," Cthyra said. "The Nexus plague," Maya said slowly. "It wasn't natural, was it? It was your protocol, wasn't it? Somehow it got loose, infected humans." "No." Cthyra's voice carried an edge of steel. "We released it deliberately. A test, to see how your species would respond. To see if any of you could adapt in ways we no longer can." Maya felt her blood run cold. Thousands had died in the Nexus outbreak. Her friends, her colleagues, entire families, all sacrificed for an experiment. She backed away from Cthyra, anger warring with scientific fascination. "You killed all those people just to test a theory." "To save my species," Cthyra corrected. "And it worked. You survived. You adapted. You became something new. And now you want to understand how." Maya's mind raced ahead, seeing the larger picture. "But that's not all, is it? You don't just want to understand, you want to replicate it. You want to use whatever happened to me to save your people." Cthyra moved closer, those golden eyes intense. "Would you condemn an entire species to extinction for the sake of revenge, Dr. Rodriguez? Don't you dare try to claim the moral high ground," Maya snapped. "You murdered thousands of innocent people." "Yes." Cthyra's simple admission caught Maya off guard. "I am a monster by your standards. By any standards. But I am a monster trying to save her children from a fate we brought upon ourselves through our own arrogance." Maya looked back at the malformed child in stasis, then at her own genetic data swirling in the air around them. The Nexus plague had changed her, transformed her, but had it only been luck? Or had Cthyra's people been guiding that evolution somehow? "There's more you haven't told me," she said finally. "About why I specifically survived. About what you really want from me." Cthyra's scales shifted to a pattern Maya had never seen before. "Yes. And when you discover that truth, Dr. Rodriguez, you will have to make a choice that will determine the fate of both our species." Maya turned back to the genetic displays, determination replacing her anger. She would uncover the truth, all of it. And when she did, she would make her own choice, not the one Cthyra had planned for her. "Show me everything," she said. "No more secrets. No more tests. If you want my help saving your species, you're going to have to trust me." Cthyra's response was to wave a hand, causing new data to flood the displays, data that made Maya's eyes widen in shock. "Perhaps," the alien warlord said softly, "it is time to show you why we chose you long before you were born." Maya stared at the genetic sequence floating before her, her mind refusing to accept what the data clearly showed. Her hands trembled as she manipulated the holographic display, comparing her DNA to the historical records Kyra had finally revealed. "This can't be right," she whispered, but the evidence was undeniable. Within her genetic code were fragments that couldn't possibly have evolved naturally on Earth. They were engineered, precise, deliberate modifications made generations ago. "Your ancestors were part of a long-term experiment," Kyra said, moving through the forest of holographic data. "We seeded several human bloodlines with dormant genetic markers. Your survival of the Nexus plague wasn't luck, it was design." Maya felt sick. "How many? How many families did you manipulate?" "Thousands, over centuries." Kyra's scales shifted in patterns of what might have been regret. "Most of the markers remain dormant. But in you," the alien gestured at Maya's genetic data. "In you, they awakened perfectly." A terminal on the far wall suddenly flashed red, drawing both their attention. Kyra moved with impossible speed, scanning the alert. The alien's scales darkened dramatically. "What is it?" Maya asked, momentarily distracted from her existential crisis. "The Council has discovered what I've done. They're coming." Kyra's voice carried an edge of genuine fear. "They believe I've gone too far, shared too much with you. Your own people are turning against you. They want a simpler solution. They want to." Kyra broke off as the ship shuddered violently. The chamber's bioluminescence flared in warning patterns as new holograms appeared, showing multiple warships emerging from fold space. Their designs were similar to Kyra's vessel but larger, more aggressive. "The Council fleet," Kyra said grimly. "They've come to collect you, Dr. Rodriguez. And to execute me for treason." Maya's mind raced. "Because you told me the truth? Because you showed me what your people really did to humanity? Because I believe cooperation is possible." Kyra moved to a control interface, the ship's living walls pulsing with emergency protocols. "The Council wants to harvest humanity's genetic potential by force. They think understanding you is unnecessary, that we can simply take what we need." Another impact rocked the ship. Warning signals flashed through the holographic forest of data as systems began to fail. "We need to get to the backup lab," Kyra said urgently. "Everything we've discovered, everything we've learned, it's too important to lose." Maya stood her ground. "Why should I help you? You manipulated my entire family line, experimented on humanity for centuries, killed thousands with the Nexus plague. Because the Council will do far worse." Kyra's voice carried harmonics of desperation Maya had never heard before. "They won't just experiment on humanity, they'll harvest your entire species. Billions will die, and my people will learn nothing. We'll repeat our mistakes, achieve another dead-end perfection, and the cycle will continue." The ship shuddered again, more violently this time. Through the holographic displays, Maya could see sections of the vessel beginning to shut down, its living architecture going dormant under the assault. "If you want revenge, Dr. Rodriguez, then stand aside. Let them take me. Let them take you. But know that in doing so, you condemn both our species." Maya looked at her genetic data, at the engineered markers that had shaped her family's destiny for generations. She thought of her survival of the Nexus plague, of the thousands who had died, of the twisted child in stasis fighting against its own perfect code. "The backup lab," she said finally. "What's there that's so important?" Kyra's scales brightened slightly. "Hope. A way to free my people from the perfectionist protocol without destroying who we are. And possibly," the alien hesitated. "Possibly a way to help humanity achieve its true potential without the devastation of forced evolution." Another impact. The chamber's lights flickered. "We have to go now," Kyra urged. "The Council's forces will breach the ship's defenses soon." Maya made her decision. She rushed to the main terminal, her fingers flying over the interface she'd learned to use over the past days. "I'll transfer what data I can. But I need you to promise me something. Anything. When this is over, if we survive, humanity gets a choice. No more manipulation, no more secret experiments. We decide our own path. Thyra's scales rippled with complex emotions. You would trust us with such a promise? After everything we've done? Not your people, Maya said, finishing the data transfer. You. Because somehow, despite being the most feared warlord in the galaxy, you're the only one who seems to understand that evolution without understanding is just another form of death. The ship's internal architecture suddenly began to shift, corridors sealing off as the Council's forces began their boarding action. They could hear weapons fire in the distance. We need to move, Thyra said, already heading for a hidden exit. The backup lab is. The wall exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris stepped three figures Maya had only seen in nightmare footage from conquered worlds, Council executioners. Their armor seemed to drink in light itself, and their weapons hummed with terrible purpose. Warlord Thyra, one of them said, its voice carrying harmonics of judgment. You have betrayed our species for the sake of a human experiment. The Council has passed sentence. Thyra moved with liquid grace, placing herself between Maya and the executioners. The Council is wrong. Our future lies in understanding, not conquest. Then you will die with that belief. The executioners raised their weapons. The human comes with us. The harvest will proceed as planned. Maya looked at the terminal where she just transferred the data that could save or doom two species. She saw Thyra tense, ready to fight against impossible odds. And she realized that sometimes the most human thing to do was also the craziest. She reached for the terminal's emergency protocols, a plan forming in her mind. It was time to show Thyra's people exactly why humans were so dangerous, not because of engineered genetics, but because of what they chose to do with them. Actually, she said, fingers hovering over the controls, I have a counter-proposal. The executioners hadn't expected a human to understand their ship's biological interface. That was their first mistake. Their second was assuming that Maya's survival of the Nexus plague had only made her stronger. It had made her something else entirely, something that even Thyra hadn't fully understood. Maya's fingers danced across the terminal, interfacing directly with the ship's living architecture. The Nexus plague hadn't just changed her DNA, it had given her the ability to communicate with biological technology. She'd discovered this accidentally over the past few days but had kept it secret, unsure whom to trust. Stop her, the lead executioner commanded, but it was too late. The ship's walls pulsed with new patterns as Maya initiated her desperate plan. You want to see humanity's potential, she called out. Watch this. The chamber's architecture began to shift and morph, responding to her commands in ways that shouldn't have been possible. Thyra's scales flashed with astonishment as Maya's consciousness merged with the ship's biological systems. Impossible, one of the executioners whispered. She's rewriting the ship's base code. Maya felt the vessel's systems flowing through her mind like digital rivers. The Nexus plague had changed her in ways that went far beyond simple survival. It had made her a bridge between human adaptability and Thyran technology. Your perfectionist protocol isn't just killing your species, Maya said, her voice resonating with new harmonics as she connected deeper with the ship. It's killing your ability to understand life itself. Evolution isn't about perfection, it's about change, adaptation, survival through diversity. The executioners raised their weapons, but the floor beneath them suddenly became fluid, trapping them in place. The ship's biological architecture responded to Maya's commands like an extension of her own body. Dr. Rodriguez, Thyra said softly, what have you done? Maya turned to the alien warlord, her eyes now glowing with the same bioluminescence as the ship's walls. I found the solution you were looking for. Your people engineered humanity to be adaptable, but you never understood what that really meant. We don't just survive change, we embrace it. We transform it. We make it our own. Through her connection to the ship, Maya projected the full genetic data she'd discovered, not just her own modified DNA, but the true nature of the perfectionist protocol. "Look," she commanded everyone in the room. "Look at what your drive for perfection really created." The holographic displays showed the protocol's core programming, but now from Maya's unique perspective. What Kthira's people had seen as a tool for perfection was actually a virus itself, one that could be adapted, changed, reprogrammed. The Nexus Plague wasn't just a test, Maya explained, her consciousness expanding through the ship's systems. "It was your protocol attempting to evolve. And in me, it finally succeeded. I didn't just survive it, I showed it a new way to exist." The executioners struggled against their restraints as understanding dawned in their golden eyes. Kthira moved closer to Maya, scales shifting in complex patterns of wonder and fear. "You're saying we can reprogram the protocol itself?" Kthira asked. "Better." Maya smiled. "We can teach it to embrace imperfection. To seek diversity instead of uniformity. To evolve." Maya raised her hands, and the ship's biological architecture responded, creating a new chamber around them. Within it, strands of her hybrid DNA began to dance with sequences from Kthira's species, showing a path forward that neither species had imagined. "Your people wanted to harvest humanity's potential," Maya said to the executioners. "But you never understood that potential isn't something you can take. It's something you have to grow, to nurture, to let evolve in its own way." She turned to Kthira. "You were right to seek understanding instead of conquest. Now I'm offering you a choice, the same choice you offered me. We can work together, find a way to save both our species through cooperation and mutual evolution. Or, Kthira prompted. Or I can use what the Nexus Plague gave me to shut down every biological ship in your fleet. Right now. Show your council exactly what happens when you push humanity too far." The chamber fell silent except for the subtle pulse of its living walls. The executioners stood frozen, their perfect composure finally broken. Kthira's scales rippled with what might have been laughter. "You continue to surprise me, Dr. Rodriguez." Kthira turned to the executioners. "Tell the council what you've seen here. Tell them that the age of forced perfection is over. It's time for our species to learn how to evolve again." The lead executioner's scales shifted through complex patterns before finally settling into one Maya had never seen before: submission. "The council will want proof. They'll have it," Maya said, finally releasing her deep connection to the ship's systems. The glow faded from her eyes, but she could still feel the biological technology humming around them. "Because I'm going to teach your scientists how to communicate with their own ships, how to understand the living technology they created but never truly knew. Together, we'll find a way to make the protocol work for life instead of against it." Kthira placed a scaled hand on Maya's shoulder. "And humanity? Will your people forgive us for our manipulation? For the Nexus Plague?" Maya thought of all the lives lost, of the centuries of secret experimentation, of the hard road ahead. Forgiveness isn't guaranteed. But understanding? Cooperation? The chance to evolve together instead of against each other? That's what humans do best, we take the impossible and make it possible. As the executioners were released and Kthira began coordinating with the council ships, Maya looked at her own genetic data one last time. She had been engineered, manipulated, infected, and changed. But in the end, what made her truly unique wasn't the modifications to her DNA, it was the uniquely human ability to take change and make it into something new, something better. "Ready to begin?" Kthira asked, as the ship's systems reconfigured around them. Maya nodded, already thinking of the challenges ahead. "Let's show both our species what real evolution looks like." The ship's walls pulsed with new patterns, reflecting not perfection, but possibility. And in that moment, Maya knew that while she had been trapped with the galaxy's most dangerous alien, she had also found humanity's greatest opportunity, the chance to shape the future of not just one species, but two. It wasn't the ending she had expected when Kthira first appeared in her lab. It was better. It was evolution.